that?
I think we may well be live now.
Are we?
We are. Can you bring Melinda in? Hello, if you're watching this. Sorry, we're just having a few technical issues because we've just been changing our settings on Restream. But anyway, let's pretend that didn't happen, and we are here. I'll hand over to you, Vanessa. We're now live.
Wow. Hello, everybody. Yes. So, yeah, sorry about that. We've been changing settings, and so it just threw the technology out. But welcome to the Business Brunch. We are here with a shorter 30-minute show to try and pack all the learning into that kind of bite-sized lunchtime snippet that will give you everything you need and the knowledge that you need to go on and have an amazing rest of the week. So do say hello in the chat. We are going live on, I think, 13 different channels. So you might not see everybody else there saying hello, but there are other people there. Have faith. So do say hello to us. Let us know where you are. And we'll say hello. We'll introduce ourselves whilst you're doing that. And then we'll get straight into today's topic. So it is the end of the year. We're all planning for next year and putting our plans and budgets together. And unfortunately, it's review season, it's performance appraisal season, and whatever that means to you. If you're in employment, then it's that, will you get your bonus? Will you get a pay rise? Did you meet your objectives? But also, if you're a small business owner, then how are you getting ready for next year by reviewing the year that's gone? So we'll have a look at that. But before we do, I need to get rid of it. I've got a strange thing on the screen that I can't get rid of. There we go, that's better. So before we do, we'll introduce ourselves, and then we'll bring you and introduce you onto the screen as well. So first of all, Sarah Farmer. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an executive coach, and I specialise in developing mindset and leadership skills for senior leaders and C-suite executives across the globe. And Melinda, over to you.
Hello, my name is Melinda Ward. I am the Director for Consulting Solutions and Managed Services at Helm 360, and I specialise in consulting, business transformation, and business optimization.
Fabulous.
And who are you?
Who am I?
Because you're up as Melinda Ward twice.
Oh God. Yes, I am not Melinda Ward. I should change that in a minute. I am Vanessa Ashworth. I am a marketer. I am the value proposition queen, is what I've been called on this show. So I can take your complex messaging and I can make it simple, short, and compelling to your audience. So I step in to make you stand out. That's
very good.
And I'll change my name while you're doing that.
Yeah, do that. So Andy's back. Hello. Sorry. Oh, we missed you last week, Andy, and thank you for your happy birthday messages for us last week. And Danny's back. Where were you, Danny? It felt very odd not having you there. But glad to have you back. We have someone in for the first time, which is Blair. Hello, Blair.
Welcome.
Just hello to you, Vanessa. But anyway, we all say hello back to you. First time for you. Let's hope you enjoy and come back for more. And I can't say it, Abhishek. Thank you. Hello. Oh, God, you're really testing me now, aren't you? Alicia. Oh, good. This one I can do. Steve. Yes. Welcome, Steve. And Steve has also said, is this live? It is live.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, we had a few technical issues, but anyway, it is live. So yeah, hello, keep saying hello if you're in there. We will pop you onto the screen. Also, if you have any questions, let us know. But shall we head on into our topic for today to fill our brains with something very useful?
Absolutely. And I think this topic is one of those things that so many people hear the word review. And it's kind of like we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a session on gosh, my brain just went really blank. On feedback. And feedback is one of those things that just, as soon as someone hears those words, I have some feedback for you. Even if it's good, everybody just like tightens up. You know what I mean? It's just, it's an instinctive recoiling from it. So I actually think that maybe we should all collectively start a renaming effort to call it, you know, instead of doing something like review or annual review or performance review, how about a retrospective, for example, to look back across the year, take the contentious feelings out of the word. And if you are interested in that feedback program, that is available on replay on all of our streams. Just go back to the recordings. Now, for this week, we're going to be looking at how can you get the most out of an annual review? And one of the big things that I think we tend to focus on is kind of a result of the fact that we put off doing this for a whole year, or maybe 2 or 3 years if you're a solopreneur and you haven't really been staying, rigorous with it, because it's easy to put aside. It's easy to find more time or time to do something else instead of doing this. But let's call it a retrospective. Let's make it positive as well as, iterative, as far as let's review what's happened. Let's not just focus on, well, that didn't go well and that was kind of bad and need to change that. But what went right? Where did we try to innovate and succeed? It could be in a small way, it could be in a big way, but part of the way to support innovation is to recognize it, take on board what worked and say, hey, this is a good start. How can we do better? And use that as a foundation to encourage yourself and encourage others to build on those positive ideas, test business logic, and as Steve says, it should be something that's done regularly. When we get to the end of the year, as Sarah was saying before the show, it shouldn't be a surprise, right? We should know right where we are the whole way through. So to do a retrospective quarterly, or if you want to go whole hog, if you're under a massive period of change, you could look at it, monthly or every 6 weeks. If you're doing a big transition, just do a mini retrospective and say, hey, how's it gone so far? What's gone well and what can be improved? And this should include it definitely obviously needs to include behaviors, and a lot of times doesn't. Mm-hmm. But another thing, thinking about a discussion we've had over the past week within us three, how many things do you have that you just renew every year, like software packages, without really looking at it and without really thinking, oh, is this serving me still? Like, it might have been a great fit when you started, but how have you evolved? Is it still fitting you? Could you scale back? Do you need to scale up? There are a lot of ways that people can save money, actually, by maybe downgrading a package that you have, or instead of investing in something new that looks sexy and looks like it's going to solve a problem, does one of your existing tools do that same job? So there's lots of different angles we can look at, and each business is going to be different. Key components, though.
Yeah. Just before you go into key components, think about something you said right at the beginning, which is changing the word. And I wrote down something which is changing the word doesn't change the problem. And I think you then went on to talk about the problems with it are the feelings that we have towards it. And then we've got Steve come in and say, exactly, it should be done earlier. But actually, the problems start way before then. So if we want to change perception of it, we have to change what we're doing right at the beginning, which is right at the beginning of the year. What are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? How often will I get feedback? How often will I get coaching on this, which is what you've just talked about? So, and then we could change the perception of it. It might not even need to change the word, but it's so badly done generally. And I see this on, my day job, and doesn't need to be. It's just, we're not getting it right up front.
I think, another thing that you said, like to Steve's point about it should be every 3 months, quite a lot when you're in employment, then you've got a performance appraisal. And at the beginning of the year, you're given the objectives. You've got to do these 3 or 4 things in the 12 months. But it absolutely needs to be reviewed on a quarterly basis, at least, because if the business objectives change, then your objectives have to change with it. And all too often at the end of the year, because you've been pulled in all different directions, you're then trying to cram in your 4 objectives, which no longer serve the business. But if you don't do it, you're not going to get your bonus. It's madness. But rigidly.
Yeah, and what Andy was saying initially, just before this comment, that yes, I did take that because I work in agile environments, and I do like that word, and it is collaborative. And I think that is something that's missing from the review process. And this is something that is the conventional in a corporate environment review process is the collaborative nature. Because how can you keep people engaged if they just feel they're being dictated to? Oh, you have to make this target. Oh, you have to match this corporate goal. Oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get your bonus, in order to get the salary review, without having that collaboration to say, where do you want to go? What tools do you think you need to have in your toolkit to get there, to meet this objective that we have as a company? So if you're not asking somebody to collaborate, to say, we have these corporate goals, we have to reach these corporate goals, not saying they're not important. How do you think we can get there better? Is a question that very few companies ask.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in and say hello to Waggy? We haven't seen Waggy for ages. Hello. Review where we have agreed upon together. Where did we go, and where shall we go? Yeah, absolutely. It's a bizarre process. And the other thing we were talking about before we came on air was the fact is, whatever we call it, whatever we do, unless it's done better, people are worried about it, because what it's used for is how much bonus you're going to get, and are you going to get a pay rise? That's what it's used for every single time.
At least it's a judgment as well. It's completely judging you personally. It's a very personal thing, isn't it? And that's why it's so. We need to depersonalize it completely.
Well, yes and no, but it needs to be customized for the person, because I think the danger. I get where you're going with this, Vanessa, but I think the danger is it already does feel very depersonalized in the corporate environment. It's like you go into this portal, you answer a bunch of really random questions that don't really have any bearing on the job you're actually doing, and it spews out some percentage of achievement at the end, which again doesn't have any bearing on what you've actually contributed necessarily. So yeah, there's that. It's tricky. It is
tricky. I wonder if anybody out there that's listening has ever seen this done really well, because I know I have. I've been very, very blessed to have been part of the pharmaceutical industry where they did this brilliantly. It was consistent. It was as fair as it could be. Of course, there's always going to be biased thought in there. You know, if you're one of the boss's favorites, then it's probably going to be easier for you. We can't change everything. But at Pfizer, I remember very clearly, you had a set of behaviors that you had to achieve, and you also had your numbers that you had to hit as well. So you were measured on both of those. You knew what they were. You got that was discussed with you on a quarterly basis, if not more than that sometimes. So it was never a surprise when you came in at the end, and you had to achieve to be part of that, that curve that everyone has to fit that bell-shaped
curve. Yeah.
To at least achieve, you had to show, I think it was 2 or 3 examples of each behavior and each skill and yada, yada. To overachieve, you had to show more. So it had to be consistent. And it was the best way I've ever seen it being done. Often it didn't feel fair. People would come to me. I remember having one of my reps coming into me, and I had only just picked her up, but her performance had been appalling all year. Her behavior had been appalling all year. And she came to me and tried to prove that she was overachieved. And, we had a bit of a fallout over that because there was nothing to say. But that wasn't my fault that she hadn't been picked up throughout the whole year. But I don't know whether you ladies or anyone else out there has had experiences that are, really good. I'll just pick these up quickly. Sorry. Steve.
Well, I was going to say, Danny is quite, I liked Danny's comment, which was on screen a few moments ago, about where when goals and objectives are just dictated as opposed to agreed. Obviously, it's a benevolent dictatorship in a corporate environment, isn't it? Or should be. It's like there has to be leadership setting goals, but the way of getting there has to be agreed. Or I like the way you put it, the weaponization of values, which is, that's a powerful statement, but it definitely does happen.
Yeah, this thing that Steve's saying about they should be simple. They should be, as simple as possible and as fair as possible and as consistent as possible, so people feel like they're as valuable as possible. Andy says, interesting, interviews are 2-way, but so many reviews are just 1-way. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the year, you have got to make a decision on who's going to get more bonus, who's going to get salary increases, yada, yada. So there does have to be a hard line in there. And then Jay, me again, get rid of the bell curve. Jay and I think we both worked at Pfizer at the same time. Get rid of the bell curve, separate pay and bonus from performance reviews. Oh, I don't know about that.
That's a bit contentious because a lot of people truly are money driven.
Well, it's not just that.
And also it's reward driven. It's like, if you do the right thing, what do you get for it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. We'll have a chat about that one day, Jay. But yeah, I'm sure there's very good reasons.
It's an interesting concept and it bears discussion. And the question is, if someone is, mentoring other employees and that's not part of their job description, should that be a factor in their compensation, for example?
Yes, it should.
And yes, it should, because they're contributing to the greater health of the company. So
yeah. Well, you're good at getting good in the chat here. I'm loving this. At review, we set time and place where we conduct it. So we take 2 sheets, one for each, and the answer review points from each one. Ooh,
point of view.
But I don't know what
point of view.
Points of view. They discuss and rearrange the target and set agreed time to review. Everyone sign on the. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just be clear, be honest, be consistent, make it simple as possible. Managers own the rating and the employee owns the performance. It should be a 2-way conversation. And I'm going to wait and see what.
Drum roll, please.
And Jay, come on.
But it should be a 2-way conversation, really. And I think where a lot of corporates have bought into these, flashy HR packages where they say, hey, we'll automate your review process for you. So it becomes very sterile. The line manager goes in and does a rating 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 for people and just ticks a bunch of boxes. The employee goes in, ticks a bunch of boxes. The system spews out report at the end of it with a percentage of where the person falls on the bell curve. How is that helping people grow? It's like standardized testing. It's not a productive evaluation of performance and a coaching opportunity to help people improve going forward.
Yeah. Steve says most people leave companies because of bad management and reviews. Management and leadership are different. They absolutely are. People leave bad leaders or bad managers if they are not being made to feel safe, secure, valuable, valued. They will leave, whether you're a manager or a leader of them. But you're right. They're 2 very, very different things.
So just before you go on, because on that, so I listened to the Diary of a CEO this last week, the one with Marcus Buckingham on.
Oh yeah.
And I've bought his book on Audible and it's on my next to read, which is called Love and Work. And he talks about how people are kind of shoehorned into roles rather than roles being made to fit the people. And so I'd kind of like to see more kind of questions in that review, like, what did you love most about this last year? What gave you the most joy? Because if people, as Steve said, if you're not enjoying yourself, if you've not got a good relationship with that leader, you will leave. But if you're happy, if you love what you do, if you find joy in your work, you will work harder and perform better. And other people will be inspired by your joy. Exactly. So I think reviews should be more leaning into that. So depersonalization of some things, but other things, let's get personal and let's see what the individual loves and where do they find joy. And let's fill their work with more of that. As an idea.
Richard's asked a question: if all objectives are fair, is there a risk the company will run out of HR resource capacity? I'm not sure. Maybe it was something I said that actually wasn't very clear. But I'm not saying all objectives should be fair. You should, and when I say fair, they should be achievable in some shape or form. But people should be able to overachieve them as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about the fairness in the process, the consistency of the process, so that everybody gets treated in a similar way, so that what gets spewed out is more fair. You're still going to hit this bell curve because until we can find something else, I don't see how.
Well, and people will naturally, in any team of people, there will be people who excel at some things and people who are less skilled at some things, maybe because they're new, maybe because they're less engaged, maybe because they're just operating at their own capacity. That's fine. That's normal. I suspect where I have an issue is when companies try to force a bell curve and to say, oh, it's not possible that all of your team are average or above, and you don't have any people falling behind in a particular area. Sometimes that can happen. Is it common? Not always, but it can happen. And I have had
it's really
companies tell me, oh no, you have to downgrade somebody so we fit the bell curve. I'm like, no, I'm not going to downgrade anybody. I'm giving them the review they should have based on the feedback I have from the clients and the colleagues and my own observations. I'm not going to downgrade people. Are you mad? It's like,
what were you going to say, Vanessa? I could see you got a thought in your head then.
No, it was I saw Waggy's comment about who should do the review, the manager or HR. And I think on what you were saying, Sarah, about the process needs to be fair and consistent. So HR should own the process, but I think the team leader should perform the reviews.
Always. HR, the only reason we get HR, sorry if there's anyone from HR on here, but the only reason we get HR in is if there was a problem. If I walked into a review and my HR leader was in there, I'd go, oh, Christ, I'm about to get removed. What on earth? They don't have, that's not their job. Their job is to own the process and to make sure everyone has the training to be able to do this properly. But no, they shouldn't be involved in that. And Steve's absolutely right.
And HR is specializing in HR. They're not specializing in individual responsibilities and roles.
No.
So they might understand the higher level of it, but they're not going to understand the day-to-day nuances and have that feedback on deliverables and things, where if they can't objectively review what the person's done as far as how it meets expectations, then they shouldn't, then that person shouldn't be doing that review. If HR is reviewing HR people, 100%, but it needs to be within the line management with HR oversight of the process, and to catch out if there are people who are perhaps line managers who need education in how to do effective reviews. I mean, because there's lots of people who do. So that's where HR becomes important in the process, is to make sure that everybody in the company is getting consistent, effective, productive, and fair feedback. And it should be, if people transition from one manager to another because of a promotion or a lateral shift, they shouldn't feel a completely different environment with their reviews. It should be quite consistent throughout the company.
So just consistency, just maybe, I mean, obviously, those who've watched this before will know I have a thing or two about mindset and how we show up in meetings. And one of the biggest problems is that when if you're walking into a new manager or a new situation, that person's mindset towards you or just towards themselves can change the whole feeling of it. The way that they communicate, their communication style. We can't. What's the word I'm looking for? We can't sort of tick every box and every single time. It's going to look slightly different, but we need to think about how to communicate with that person in front of them, manage our own mindset, manage our own bias, and then focus on the task in hand, which is, let's have a look at the detail and discuss it. Sorry, that just jumped into my head because it would do, because I can't stop thinking about mindset. Steve, in most companies, HR have no clue about business activity. People look at HR as a CIA space. And sadly, they're so disempowered in most companies. It's really awful. We won't start on why that happens or whose fault that is, but it happens. We've got 4 minutes. Oh my God.
4 minutes left. So I think, have we got any final thoughts? I think we should kind of summarize what we've kind of learned. So I was thinking, obviously, reviews have got to be fair. They've got to be consistent. It shouldn't wait till the end of the year. They should be regular and changed. They should be reframed to be more of a retrospective and to be more looking back to set up goals for the future. So I think it's not about judgment. It's about looking forward and actually looking at what served you well, what you enjoyed, with the good things to dial up, things to dial down to set you up for the future. And I'm going to say let's look for the love and the joy. Let's ask, what brought you joy. What else did we have?
I'll give you mine. I'm a bit more hardcore on it, sorry, because I see the downsides of this not being done properly. And I love the idea of making it slightly warmer and fluffier and looking to the future. But actually, sorry, I will take away fluff. Warmer, kinder, more future focused. I love all of that. I'm not sure it should be part of the review process, but the review is there to look at, to make sure that everyone is being is contributing as well as they could do, and that they get recompensed as fairly for that. But agree with all the rest of it. It's got to start at the beginning of the year. Know where you're starting, know what you're trying to achieve, and don't let there be any surprises. Melinda, your overview.
Yes. All of these, there shouldn't be any surprises for sure. And it definitely, the reviews need to incorporate positive as well as could do betters. And I would add, for a different flavor on it, reviews also need to have an element of collaboration. Obviously, there's going to be consistent goals within teams or within your company, the business stuff, the stuff that needs to happen. But a big thing that is missing is asking people, what do you think about your objectives that you're being assigned, and what help do you need to achieve them? What do you think would give you the best chance of making this happen?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I've seen it where corporate goals are delivered and someone looks at them and they say, well, how can I say meet a billable hour target when I only get these contracts from sales? And if sales doesn't perform, then I can't perform. So it's like, those are fair questions. So yes, you need to have a billable hour target, but what information do you need? What support do you need to try to do that? Should there be some caveats or some rephrasing to make sure that people don't find the goals impossible and therefore disengage from them?
And it always goes back to having a safe environment where you are empowered.
Yeah.
And if you can have that grown-up conversation and say, look, I agree with the goals that you're setting or that we've set together to deliver the business objectives, but in order to achieve them, I'm going to need this from you.
Exactly. And that's the big thing for getting engagement from teams and even in your own business, is to say, how am I going to achieve it? Do I have the tools I need to achieve it? And if I don't, how can I get them? Do I need outside help? Do I need coaching? Do I need what?
Whatever it is. Yeah.
There's no point in having an objective that you are asked to agree to if you don't have any clue as to how to achieve it.
Exactly.
It's not going to work. And that rolls up to the overall corporate success as well. So
Richard's point here is great to finish on, and I wholeheartedly agree with this. HR should not have the tick box seat itself and does. It should feed the strategy, and it could feed the strategy. The human side of the business is so important, and when it's forgotten, it's just a mess. So thanks for adding that, Richard. Lots of great comments coming in today.
Absolutely. Really appreciate everybody giving us your thoughts and opinions. It's really, really appreciated.
Absolutely. Sorry, go on. I was going to say, for next week, next week
we're going to look at recession-proofing your mindset.
That'll be important. And one last thought on the reviews. And yes, some of the conversation's been focused around more corporate level, but even for individual business owners and entrepreneurs, this process is also important. And if anything, it's even more important because there's more potential for trouble to bubble up if you're not keeping an eye on the objectives and where you want to go in the coming year.
I so wholeheartedly agree with that. It's about time I did a review. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
I'll see you all next week.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
We will do, Steve.